Good morning, everyone. Scott B. Cement Shoes. Good morning. Apparently, Kitty Coo had to go shopping this morning, so she won't be joining us. Gemma, good morning. And happy belated birthday to you, sweetheart. Happy birthday. Gamma had a birthday this past Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. So a couple of days ago. While we have her here and we have the time right now, let's all sing Gemma happy birthday. So on three, two, one. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, sweet Gamma. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Aunt B, good morning. Reichard, welcome. Welcome to this morning's coffee brew. I hope we all had a wonderful week. Well, good. I'm glad it cheered you up, Gamma. Give it another minute or so here, and we'll get this party started. Do. How was your week? Pretty good. Pretty good. I can't complain. Didn't get everything done that I wanted to accomplish, but I got a large amount of things ready. Been spending a lot of time winterizing, getting things brought in, outdoor plants and stuff like that, moving them into it's kind of like a greenhouse that we have in our backyard, so they're protected for the winter because it's getting colder. It's getting down into at nighttime. It's getting down into like the low 40s where I live, but daytime temperatures are still hitting in the 70s and in low 80s. It's just the nighttime temperatures, and some of the plants that I have outside have to be protected. So I spent most of the week cleaning up the area, getting all that done, and then work, of course, on top of it all, and then raising a child. But pretty good. Amy M, good morning. It's 47 here this morning. Where Aunt B is 47. Right now it is currently 51 degrees where I am. 51. So just slightly bit more than where Aunt B is. But it's part of the changing of the seasons. They, according to the Farmer's Almanac, this winter is supposed to be wet. I don't know. I'm not sure what that really means. It doesn't say that it's going to be, we're going to get more snow. Maybe we're going to get more precipitation, according to the Farmer's Almanac for the area that I live in. Put as much faith in that as I do with the weatherman. The weatherman out, I watch the evening news. He says it's going to be partly cloudy with a 10% rain, chance of rain. I go outside and it's downpouring when I walk outside, and the whole day it downpours, but it never moves past 10%. I guess I always get that 10%. It's always wet there. Good morning, Gayla. 63 where Scott is. Let's see. Looking at the weather forecast at the bottom of my screen, 51 degrees and sunny right now. Today's high temperature is 71. So, is it time for coffee? Extra good when it's cooler out. Yeah, but then again, I drink so much coffee year round. If I drink it during the morning, afternoon, I try to stop drinking coffee at about 4 o'clock. Otherwise, I'll be up all night. But without coffee, this old man don't move around very much. It's the only thing that keeps me going. It's been raining every day for the last 2 weeks and storming last night. Oh, I'm sorry, Gamma. All right, get that morning's crime recap going. Welcome to Saturday morning's coffee brew crime recap. It's eventually going to give me the thing here to move from one to the next. You're not old, Will. Oh, I feel old, Gemma. And if you feel old and you're over the age that I am, you're old. But thank you. Well, it's not working. All right. We're going to try this again. There we go. All right, overview. These are the cases that I've been following from the past 7 days, from October 8th through the 14th of 2023. Like everything that I have on this channel, the content that I put out, viewer discretion is strongly advised. Images, sounds, and content that you may read or see on screen is not for all audiences. Everything on this channel is marked for 18 years or age or older. Nothing that I make or put out is meant for those under the age of 13. If someone under the age of 13 is viewing this, they are doing so because they are skirting the actual policies of YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, and X. X, Twitter. I'm always going to call it Twitter. But they're skirting the rules and policies themselves, either underneath an adult account or they lied about their age. But viewer discretion is strongly advised. George Floyd. Ladies and gentlemen, George Floyd would have turned 50 years of age today if what didn't happen in Minneapolis. Now, for someone who has lived in Minneapolis part of my life, I can't even tell you, or express to you just how saddened I am that this happened. Not only to this George Floyd, it could have been anybody, but the Minneapolis Police Department, going back as far as the 1970s, as far as my family and everyone I know will admit, the Minneapolis Police Department has been a hodgepodge of just absolute crap. You never knew what you were going to get from one officer to the next. Corruption, violence was rampant through it since the late 1970s. You never knew what was going to happen. Either they turned a blind eye to what was happening, or they were the perpetrators themselves in the violent acts. So when this happened to George Floyd, it did not surprise anyone in my family who lives in the Minneapolis area. It doesn't surprise anybody who's not a member of my family or anybody we know. Those in the community there knew exactly, that something like this was going to happen. If it didn't happen already and just didn't get the viral video, and news coverage of it. But George Floyd and his family, my heart goes out to them all, especially today on what would have been his 50th birthday. It never should have happened, but unfortunately it did. Will it change the Minneapolis Police Department? I doubt it. I doubt that it's change is just going to kind of get moved underneath the rug, and down the road we're going to see something like this happen again. Unfortunately, that's the way life is, unless you scrap it all and start over from scratch with all new administration, all new unions, all new officers, and that isn't going to happen. So, Florida, this boy has not been named because he is a minor. He is 13 years old. And he admitted to the police department that he stabbed his mother to death while she was sleeping. He gave a very extensive, detailed accounting to why he did it, how he did it, and right now details are very sparse on this case of like what he actually, the reasoning is. But there is a little bit of news that has come out today that he may have had some disciplinary problems from school in the past, and he had acted out violently, going back to as far as the first grade towards other students and staff. Was that, did he have a behavioral issue? Did he just snap? All that would just be speculation at this point. We don't know why he did it because he's a minor and they're not releasing his actual reasoning for killing his mother. But he stabbed her to death, and depending upon the actual report, which none of them are from the actual police department itself, he either stabbed her 6 times or 11 times. So, again, the reports are anywhere in between 6 and 11 times that he stabbed her to death, stabbed her, and then eventually took her life. But I've been following this case since it took place. It came across my news desk the other day. Honor student. All right. I haven't read anything about him being an honor student yet, Amy. I did read that he was in advanced classes, but that doesn't give him the right to act out violently towards other students and staff, since the first grade. And if that is true, he definitely needs, he needed some kind of counseling to get up to this point. I mean, there's a lot of brilliant people out there who don't act out violently towards others. All right, next one. Go to jail. Do not collect $200. Now, this case I actually covered on a full-length video plus a YouTube short about a man in Connecticut who found $5,000 in cash in an actual envelope in the parking lot, and he picked it up. There was no identifying name on it. There was a deposit slip in there, and all the deposit slip said was an account number. It had no name on it, nothing that said who the money actually belonged to. And then the deposit slip in the upper left-hand corner had the name of the bank. He found the money and he kept it. So the local law enforcement and the DA's office decided to charge this man with a felony. And they were planning on convicting him for finding the money and not turning it in. By his own account to news reporters, that he needed money desperately, and here it is. He finds enough money to pay his debt to move forward. So he kind of looked at it as money from God, pennies from heaven, or whatever you want to call it. But he paid back the $5,000 in full, and they dropped the felony charge this past week, that they were going to charge him with. Now, according to the actual statement from that was released, it still leaves the door open that they could charge him with a couple of misdemeanors. They didn't say that they were dropping the case completely. They dismissed the felony charge against him. So he still might have legal issues down the road for picking up and finding this money. How was it found? How was it revealed that he found it? I think he actually came forward himself, but I'm not 100% sure about that, Smith Shoes. First, all right, so let me tell you where the money came from. And so it belonged to the actual city itself. This was tax money that they had collected, and an administrator had violated the actual rules when it came to the actual depositing of funds. She had 2 bags that she was supposed to take to the bank. And the rule that she violated was that she is not to, or any employee is allowed to go make a deposit without a second person with them for security reasons. That way they can't say, oh, that person just pocketed one of the 2 bags full of money and checks. She deposited the one that was full of checks, but the other one was the cash, and that is the one that she lost. She dropped it in the parking lot, and this news story came out, and I think he came forward and said, hey, I found the money. He admitted to it. and that's when they came after him, legally, and decided to press charges against him. But I'm not 100% sure on that. There might have been surveillance footage of it, and that's how they ID'd him. But I'd have to look into that again to answer your question completely. So I'm sorry about that. So anyway, so they dropped the felony charge against him, and one of the curious things that I found while researching this story is if he turned the say the day he found the $5,000, he turned it into the local police department, and nobody came forward within 90 days to claim the money. The police department gets to keep a small portion of that $5,000, and then the person who turned it in can come to them and not get the cash. Oh no, God, no, you don't get the cash. You get a check, and so you can't turn it in and then tell them who you are. They take all your information, make sure you didn't steal the money. But when you come to claim it, you have to then pay. They take the police department takes a small portion of it, and then they give you what's called a 1099 form where you have to pay taxes on it, and then they give you a check for what is left after they withhold the taxes, and the police department gets a little share. So maybe that's another reason why he didn't want to turn in the money, because he would have to pay taxes on it, and the police department could have taken part of the money. But it worked out. The county got their money back, city got their money back, and the felony charge has been dismissed against him. All right, next one. So Lisa Colburn Kessler, according to the update that I read online from Newsweek magazine online, they have received some tips. As of today, I don't know if those came from people who actually saw my coverage of it, but they did receive some actual positive tips that the FBI and local law enforcement is going to be following up on. In case you are not familiar with this case, Lisa Colburn Kessler disappeared 33 years ago, and nobody knew what happened to her. And they had a Jane Doe body that had been found 33 years ago, and through DNA in reverse family genealogical DNA evidence, they were able to determine that the body that they had found 33 years ago was that of Lisa Colburn Kessler. At this time, the NBI, GBI, which is the state police detectives agencies, and the FBI have been working on this case, off and on for the last 33 years. But at least now the family knows what happened to their loved one, Lisa Colburn Kessler. So, but if you happen to know anything about this case, you can call 1-800 call FBI. That's a toll-free number, and you can remain anonymous to the FBI. I did have a couple comments on last week's stream where people pointed out, well, the FBI is probably going to track your number. Sure. I mean, they're probably listening to us right now. Who knows? I mean, I'm not going to go down that conspiracy theory, rabbit hole, but it could happen. He should have kept his lips shut, right? But all right, next. So last week I was asked if what I felt about what is going on in Israel and the attack that took place last Saturday. So I was asked not only during my Sunday stream, but I was asked in the comment section of other videos shorts videos that I released on Monday and Tuesday of last week. I don't think I can give justice to it. To explaining just how horrified I am and pissed off I am about what happened. But I found a video by Casey Neistat that gives not only a personal view to what took place, and how horrified, but I strongly support what he said in the video. Uh, in case you're not familiar with Casey Neistat, he is a video film creator. He's made a couple of movies, actual real movies, and he's been heavily into YouTube for quite a long time. He's got a couple million followers on just YouTube, and I mean, probably over 10 million, on total social media. But Casey has been a helping hand for so many, other creators in helping them not only understand how to start YouTube channels, but how to narrow it down and lock into an actual niche, that helps you grow your channel. But he's a great guy. But you can copy that link or go to Casey Neistat as it's spelled above his picture there. And the video is called Jew, just simply Jew. And you can watch the video yourself to get some kind of perspective on what took place in Israel. But again, I don't feel like I have any room to actually speak on it, because if I was to do it, it would only come from the position of anger. Next, our stupid criminal of the week, Zachariah Peterson. And I do believe I spelled his Zachariah wrong there and how he actually spells it. But anyway, Zachariah Peterson is the YouTube Shorts video I put out about him actually calling in a swatting call. In case you're not familiar with what a swatting call is, a swatting call is where you call in a fake threat about an individual or location or both, and you say something like, hey, this guy is going to, shoot up this school, and this is where they are right now. And they send out the SWAT team to bust in the door to, confront the individual and arrest them, so that before they actually commit the actual act of violence. This swatting actually started off with online gaming. People who got pissed off that somebody else beat them in a video game online started swatting the other one, calling in fake threats like, hey, this guy said online that he has a gun and he's going to kill his family. It started off like that, and then it progressed and it got worse. Swatting calls have happened here on YouTube for people who, maybe they're doing a live stream in the true crime community, or they're doing a makeup tutorial, and someone doesn't like it, so they find out the personal information. Instead of doxing that individual, they call in a swatting call, to the local police department, that this person's about to kill their entire family, and you need to hurry up and get there. So, but he called it in the swatting call to the Ford Motor Company and said that there was an individual who was barricaded in a bathroom on the second floor of the actual office complex, and that this person supposedly was going to, kill a mass number of employees, that he was a disgruntled ex-employee. Though they evacuated 2,200 employees. Zachariah did this because he had the day off of work and wanted to go fishing with his buddy. And, well, his buddy got the day off of work. When they confronted Zachariah at his home later on, he said his friend didn't know anything about it, but later on, the Ford Motor Company did fire his best friend. So now he has the time off to go fishing, but Zachariah is still in jail for what he did. And yes, a lot of jurisdictions don't even have that swatting as a felony. It is a misdemeanor in a lot of jurisdictions, because the laws on the books have not caught up to online harassment and online threats of violence against another individual. So the laws need to be updated in a lot of jurisdictions like around the the United States and world. Doxing, and calling in threats like this, to harass people, is getting worse and worse as the years go by. And lawmakers are more worried about fighting with each other because this person's part of that political party, or that person part of that political party, instead of dealing with what is right there in front of us. So Zechariah sits in jail even today. He does have a bond hearing coming up this week. He's been there for a while since this all actually happened, but he does have a bond hearing coming up. It's actually a bond and a bond reduction hearing. They did 2 swatting calls on mommy ramblings. That's how I found out what swatting was. And I didn't know that they did it twice. I knew that they did one, but it happens. I know quite a few people who've gotten a swatting call, especially in the true crime community, because one creator will infuriate a group of their followers. I call them minions, and they will do a swatting call if they can find your actual location or where you are. And that's why you have to protect your actual location as closely as you can. Now, I've been doxxed twice, and that's where someone posts your personal information online just to have people harass you. And the second doxing one, uh, a creator on another platform. It wasn't on YouTube, in a forum, or in the comments section, but on Facebook in their group. They actually posted my address and said that to share it out, and that I was giving away free iPads because I was a big YouTuber, quote unquote, and that I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars and giving out free iPads to anybody who came to my door. Now, this is at my old house. They can't get to me anymore because I live in a gated community. And there's a reason why I live in a gated community. It's because of what happened before. But at my old house, they showed up. People just started randomly showing up at my door, asking for the free iPad. So, and it was done just to harass me because I was reporting on the Christopher Watts case. That's it. That's all I did wrong. And they tried to get my wife fired from work. They tried to show up at my son's school. Yeah, it gets pretty bad. These people don't quit because you have to understand there's a lot of idiots out there who will believe anything that somebody tells them. Hey, this person is awful, or this you can drag someone through the mud and then make their lives miserable by doing these things, and they do it just to harass you, to make you go away. But it happens. And I feel sorry for anybody that's ever been swatted or been doxxed like that. All right, next one. Positive news of the week. Now, this goes without saying, ladies and gentlemen, but I found it kind of humorous and positive news at the same time, that people with red hair are normal. Gingers are normal, ladies and gentlemen. They are not a mutation. After all, that has been spread on the internet since the internet has been around. That gingers, and I'm not joking, there was a group of people even on MySpace who debated just how mutated gingers were on MySpace. So it goes back that far. Science now has proven that gingers and those with red hair are in fact normal. Science can now prove that red hair freckles have been around for at least 10 million years, and in other creatures, and in humans, going back as far as we've been able to find records of actual human beings. So going back to the original Neanderthals, when humans started to walk upright, that we've now been able to prove through genetic information that gingers have been around all that time, and they're not a mutation. They're maybe not as as many of them in the world as blonde, brunette, black hair, and other colors. It's just another color of hair. It's not a mutation after all. 17% of the world's population are scientifically, that's why ginger is in quotes, have the traits, yet only 10% of that 17% express it from birth. There are some people who their hair starts off red and it gets darker as the child ages, and then we're talking from birth onward, and it may go from red to brown, but only 10% of that, of the population of the world expresses the ginger traits throughout life. So it's not a mutation after all. I found it humorous, and it's a good news story that gingers are not a mutation after all. They've always been here and they're always going to be here. And there are certain obvious sections of the world where the ginger population is higher than others. Red hair is still considered evil? Is it? Didn't know that. We were burned as witches in the Dark Ages. Hmm. Yeah, I'll give you a little side note here on when it came to the Salem witch trials in the United States and Salem, Massachusetts. When it came to those who they believed were witches, and why was it almost always women? Women, when they went back through history, they found that women, obviously, not only just child, bearers, but women themselves as a whole tend to wash their bodies more thoroughly and wash their hands multiple times per day so they didn't get sick. So when the flu or something like that, or cholera, or bubonic plague, or whatever it may have been, was spreading through a village, these people that they can later on considered witches didn't get sick because they were more cleanly, because they washed their hands. And they didn't know that washing their hands was necessarily keeping them safe from getting sick, and cleaning their homes and everything else to keep out mice, which had the flea, which transmitted diseases. They just were just living their normal life. So they're like, hey, you're a witch. So that was how they determined that person must be a witch, because they cast a spell on these people to make them sick, and they're not sick. So a lot of people were actually persecuted as a witch, and they weren't. Well, I don't think any of them were real witches. I mean, there might have been a couple, but because women were always one step ahead of the dirty men. Yeah, those dirty, dirty men. I mean, it's the truth, though. If you look at when they went back through history, they found that women as a whole are more cleanly than men. I mean, here it's 2023. I can tell you personally from my household, my wife and my daughter are a hell of a lot cleanlier than my son. My son will go outside and roll around in a mud puddle, and that's fun to him. My daughter never would have done that when she was 7. But that's it for the crime recap for this week. Not as many cases that this week that I've been following, but next week I definitely have 6 of them right now that I'm following for next week that I have on my list here. My maiden last name is Allred, originally from the red-haired beards from a male relatives. Well, that's cool. As a child, I was a redhead till 4 years of age. Reichardt was a redhead. Nice to know. Good morning, Mike Gazap. Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to this morning's Coffee Brew Crime Recap Show. Scroll up to make sure I didn't miss anybody else. Purple, good morning, Purple. How are you doing? And how is your husband, Purple? I hope he's doing better. Say a prayer for your husband every night, Purple. I hope that it's working. I hope he's getting better. When my family immigrated from Ireland, when they immigrated through Ellis Island, there's 2 brothers to the family line, and one got the last name of Finley, Finley, and the other one was Finney, Finn. Back to back, their immigration papers, but they have guessed two different, people working that, their immigrations, through Ellis Island. One got Finley. I obviously come from the one brother from Ellis Island, and my father and down, we're the Finleys, and we had another side of the family. They're all related, and they're Finneys. Thank you. He's the same, and I do appreciate the prayers and everyone is sending. Well, good. My cat is full. She's old this morning. She have a win for days. Serve her right for stealing the chorizo. I haven't had chorizo in a while. Good though. We have a cantina here, locally. Probably when I say locally, it ain't close to me. Nothing's close to where I live. Probably about 5 miles from my house. We have a Mexican cantina. They but they have a really good chorizo that they sell, and they also do beef, chicken, flank steak, stuff like that. Every once in a while, when we make tacos and stuff like that, we go there, because they make. Oh, that's the other thing. They make in-house fresh tortillas, so that's always good. It was in Jupiter, Florida. Go over to Boy in the Box verdict. Oh, the unknown named boy from what, the 1950s, was it? Or I'm guessing it was. I mean, black and white. Drawing renderings. Is that the case you're talking about? That they finally convict someone? The woman that killed her boyfriend in a suitcase was a horrible case. Yeah, where she locked him inside of the suitcase and let him suffocate to death. Yeah, that's a horrible thing. He crawled inside of it willingly, and then she refused to let him out, and he suffocated. But chorizo's good. Sarah Boone. I'm following one case. I'll tell you a little bit about. This is out of Massachusetts. I don't want to give you the actual location or too much of the details because I want to do a video on this, and I don't want you to think that I'm repeating myself when I do the video. But it's out of Massachusetts about a man that he killed his girlfriend in 1977, and he admitted to it in 1988. So like almost 11 years, almost to the exact date, he admitted to it, and he only admitted to it because he was on his deathbed. He has since died, but um, they still don't know who his girlfriend is. She was listed as a Jane Doe and just a catalog number from 1977. And even through doing reverse DNA and familial DNA, they haven't been able to connect her with a family to this day. But I'm hoping to get that video out this week. But I know who he is, but that he admits to killing her. Her name was Sarah, but no, not much more. There's no more details other than that. And she was found in a apartment, dead next to the bed. In the bed, well, not really a bedroom. It was a bed up against the hallway, kind of like area. I don't know what you'd call it, a foyer. Like somebody was moving out and the furniture was all moved, and then there's a blood spot, where she was. Well, last time I was in Mattawa, they had a tortilla factory there. Then make them daily if you want fresh. Here where I live, Purple, um, we've got two or three um, the different supermarkets. It's Fiesta Foods. It's a supermarket chain, but every one of them has a a place where they make fresh flour and corn tortillas and stuff like that. Each and every one. So there's three of them in my area, but the nearest one would be say it'd be 12 miles, approximately 12 miles from me, one way. But about 5 miles from the Mexican cantina, I can go there and get fresh tortillas. But I haven't been to Mattawa in 20 years. I mean, I know where Mattawa is. Hell, I've been there quite a few times. There's just not a whole lot of reasons for me to go to Mattawa. what's the what's the opinion on the Morphew case? Well, I'll Kazap. Sorry again for saying Kazap. I know it's not pronounced that way, but I see the name and that's always the first thing that comes to my mind. But anyways, uh, Morphew case. Uh, well, I'm happy that the family now has closure and they have the remains of Suzanne back. Um, as far as Barry, will they be able to prosecute him and convict him of it? There's a lot of what you would call poisoned, fruit from the initial prosecution and charging him that would make it difficult unless they come up with more new evidence to be able to convict him of the murder of Suzanne at this point, because a lot of that stuff that was brought up and was introduced as evidence initially, I mean, even a first year student who's in law school could say, well, you brought it up in this case, how do you know it was real then? And to a jury, you'd be like, yeah, why is this being reintroduced again if it was evidence the first time, and if if his conviction of his trial, and you then dropped all the charges, was it not true then? So it wouldn't play good to a jury, any evidence that was introduced, through the disclosure back then. So obviously, it's an uphill climb for them to ever be able to prosecute him for it, unless they can find evidence, like was he in the area, GPS where her body was found, um, saying that he is familiar with with the area, that's false, and I've seen that spread on the internet. Barry, as far as I know, and whatever everyone else knows, Barry went the other direction when it came to hunting because he was an avid hunter, but he went towards the mountains, not towards the low-lying areas, in the opposite direction from where she disappeared from. Although it would be a good idea to bury her or dispose of her remains in the opposite direction, from there. But saying that he was familiar with the area is false. Um, you don't go hunting, big game, in the valleys. You go towards the mountains where they are, and I'm not talking like, mountain, like huge mountain like areas. It's more towards like the foothills of the mountains is where Barry went hunting. Need true evidence that's going to be difficult. Yeah, it is. I'm sure Barry, will come up with a good legal defense if they do try to try him for it again. So, and he's gonna, and on top of that, they're gonna introduce that DNA evidence from, was it a sexual predator that was found, that was connected to the case. That the defense is going to introduce that as a possible person who, that may have killed her. I mean, at least we know where she was riding, her mountain bike in that area. A mountain lion didn't get her and drag her all that ways. So we know that much. But it wasn't a mountain lion. No, Barry hunted his wife. He may have. He may have killed her in the house for all we know, and then used the biking thing, as a ruse. Or maybe she went on a bike ride, came back, and he was supposed to be out of town working, but he had snuck back into town and offed her and just disposed of her body, and then that's why he went to all those trash cans to spread around all the evidence, so it wasn't in one trash can, so he couldn't be convicted of it. I mean, there's that, and then there's what may have actually happened, and somewhere in between there is probably the truth. Yes, she did. Reichart. Linda Stanley definitely ruined it. And I still, to this day, I think the reason why they even pressed charges and arrested him in the first place was it was more political in nature than it was that they had evidence that proved that he was, because it's a circumstantial case at this point. There was no hard evidence that he shot a tranquilizing dart at her and then took her off someplace and killed her. A lot of the evidence is circumstantial at best. Just because you find the cap that could have been to a tranquilizer dart somewhere doesn't prove that Barry's DNA is on it, on that tranquilizing cap, or that she was shot with a tranquilizing dart, or that the GPS data from inside the house, that Barry, ran 88 miles an hour inside of his home. The GPS data was screwed up because the satellite is moving, across that area. It's not fixed over the top of that house. So that's why it showed he was moving at 88 miles an hour inside of his home. So, I mean, there's a lot of things. It's all circumstantial. Do they have any hard evidence? If they had any hard evidence, I'm sure we would have heard about it. I don't think she was riding her bike. Her sunglasses and other items she always took on her rides were found at the house. I can't comment on that if it was actual real evidence that items that she always took with her were found at the home. Um, I mean, there's ways to explain away each and every item that she may have always taken with her. So, Fructus Doulos did the same thing, visiting a bunch of different trash cans. Yeah, that's true. She wouldn't have left her sunglasses. I always wear sunglasses outside. I never leave without them. I have 8 pairs of sunglasses, Mike. Is there one pair that I wear all the time? 5 of the 8 are prescription sunglasses. I keep one pair right here on my desk. I never take it anywhere unless I'm going out and I know I'm going to be someplace where it's sunny. And then my actual glasses that I wear for reading and seeing have their transitional lenses, so they automatically darken like sunglasses. And I have 5 pairs of prescription glasses. Is there one in particular pair that she always wore and never wore or owned another pair? I can't comment on that. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just saying, given my example, I'm thinking out from the outside looking in. Okay, let's just say that you always had a pair of sunglasses that you wore. Do you own another pair of sunglasses? Do you have a backup pair in your car or in your house that you wear? Maybe they're exact same, duplicates of each other. I don't know. People have multiples of a lot of things. You know, is there always, a pair of shoes that person wore? Is there something else that says that, she would have always had that one item? I don't know. But then again, I don't follow, Barry Morphew all that much anymore. I should, but, to keep an eye on to see if they actually do, decide to prosecute him. Suspect the bike and helmet was planted. You don't, you don't need sunglasses in the UK, especially if it's been raining for the last couple of weeks, huh? I mean, prescription sunglasses are so cheap from the company that I can't remember the name of the company that we get them from. I don't have the one of the boxes here, but I bet it's on one of the cleaning rags. Every one of them that give us a cleaning rag. Zenni, ZENNI.com. Prescription sunglasses are like $20. You go to the store and buy a decent pair of sunglasses. You pay what $9.95 at the supermarket for a cheap pair, maybe $5, $8 at a convenience store. For $20, you can get prescription sunglasses from Zenni for maybe it's twice as much, but that's why I have so many pairs of them. And that's not a paid ad placement. I'm just telling you who I use. Too many YouTube creators speculating on Morphew. It's getting silly. This emoji looks exactly like BTK. It does kind of look like him, doesn't it? Big nose and overgrown eyebrows. Planting things. Oh, there've been quite a few serial killers that have done that. Look at Gary Ridgway, for instance. Gary Ridgway, the reason why it took so long to catch him, I mean, if it wasn't for Ted Bundy actually helping the FBI and giving them a profile that they never even had, that they never even thought of at that point, but Ted Bundy helped them a lot, even though they don't want to admit to it. He did help them a lot. But Ridgway, he would purposely leave things at the crime scene that he had collected up in other areas, cigarette butts, hair, chewing gum wrappers, where he'd find these things on the street or in trash cans, and he'd collect them and leave them at the scene of the crime. So in case we're looking for somebody who chews gum, smokes Marlboro, Reds, or Camel cigarettes, they would put that in the file, and they're like, okay, well, we're looking for somebody who smokes, who chews bubble gum, and has blonde or black hair. That's the profile of the person they're looking for, and that's the evidence that he leave behind on purpose. Well, Gary Ridgway didn't smoke. He didn't like bubble gum, and he didn't have the same color of hair or the same profile. And they'd be like, okay, well, when we find that another hair sample, but he did things like that throughout his killing spree. Bundy helped the FBI and local law enforcement in telling them the next time they found a victim, just don't touch the body, leave the body alone. And this has helped a lot, especially catching other serial killers since then. And tracking down and actually pinpointing what is really going on in the situation. But he told him, leave the victim alone. He's going to be coming back. How did Bundy know that? Because it was Bundy's actual MO himself. And they didn't put the pieces together, even for Bundy, until after he started talking about it and helping the FBI. They're like, oh my God, you did go back to every one of your victims until the rigor mortis and the decay had set into a point where they became disgusting to them. So then they wouldn't go back again. But is a fresh kill. If you find a fresh kill, he told them, leave them alone. He's going to be back. Do serial killers think it's a game, or are they not all the same? They're not all the same. Is the just to give you a brief oversight. There are no two serial killers that are exactly alike. There are serial killers who may do it for this and a reason, and there are other ones who'll do it for this. They may look alike. They may hunt the same way. They may look, but they overall the connections you can make from one serial killer to the next is a vast majority of them hunt those that are on the edges of society. And by that, I mean those that are runaways, drug addicts, prostitutes, those with menial jobs or no, connections to their community. Those are the ones that they hunt and they seek out. They're not going to go to a jujitsu studio and to find their next victim. They're going to go to, the poor side of town and find, the lady who's, a drug addict who's out there turning tricks to get money to buy drugs before she gets sick. And that's the person they can convince to get in their vehicle with them or go with them in some manner, and they're disposable because no one's going to miss them. If they don't turn up tomorrow, yeah, the pimp's going to wonder where the hell's my beep, but who else is going to miss them? So a lot of serial killers, they look for the same type of victims, and there are serial killers that are out there right now today that we do not know the names of. Right now, according to the FBI, there's over 1,000 serial killers in America right now today. Are they active? Some are, some aren't of that 1,000. But we don't know their names, and they have different methods. And again, what I was saying that they also have different reasons. Some of them are hunting and looking for women to be a proxy for a mother or a scorned lover of theirs in the past, or maybe they're just driven to it because they have a sadistic sexual nature to it. But most serial killers have a sexual component to every one of their crimes. But again, they're different. Bundy liked good girls. Bundy liked not good girls, Mike. Bundy liked pure. He was trying to find ones that weren't promiscuous, that were that had less of a chance of diseases. Then he may not have talked about it directly, but he had an MO, a certain type of not MO, but a certain type of woman, and they were all, if you look at every one of his victims, they were all had the same body shape, height approximately, and the same hair color, same hair make, everything as his well, he felt that the one true love in his life, his girlfriend, who broke off the relationship, he was trying to replace each and every one of those victims, and do what to them what she wouldn't do for him. When she ended the relationship, that's what pushed Bundy in the opposite direction. And just looking at it from the case study, but he wasn't looking for pure. Bundy didn't like prostitutes. No, no, he didn't. Victims were students, not druggies. No, but don't forget, Bundy tried to. He almost got away with killing Debbie Harry, um, the lead singer of known as Blondie from the band Blondie. Rapture. Yeah, he got her in the car and came that close to actually getting away and killing her. But she acted quickly because he was creeping around just enough. And when she tried to open the door handle from the inside of that Volkswagen, it didn't work. So she was able to reach her hand out through a little bit of an opening in the window and push the button. Have the idea that's how to get out of the car, and then when he turned the corner, she rolled out, and she got away from him. But she came that close. Debbie Harry did, to actually being a victim of Ted Bundy. Kimber Leach was a child. Wasn't Mike? Wasn't she like 12? By far the youngest victim of Ted Bundy's. Why did he do her? But Bundy didn't care about the age. It wasn't the age. It was how they looked, their body shape, and their hair, and how they acted. These are the things that played into it. He needed somebody that was, I don't want to say gullible, but they were definitely gullible. Will you help this person out? And had a good nature to them. She was 12. Okay. You never knew that he attacked Debbie Harry. Yeah, you can, Mike. You can. Do believe you can find the video on YouTube. If you search Debbie Harry, Ted Bundy, you might be able to find the video on YouTube of her in an interview. I think it was with Livewire magazine, or it might have been Rolling Stone that she actually talked to about it. But she came that close to being one of Ted Bundy's victims. That's up for debate, Gayla. If Kimberly Leach was his last victim, there are, according to the prosecutor's office, there were two additional murders that happened in Florida that they believe may have been Bundy, but they were never able to actually prove, beyond a preponderance of the evidence that he was. And Bundy never wanted to talk about all of the crimes that he committed. There were some that he absolutely refused to talk about because they were personal. And another thing I want to make sure that people understand is, even though he tried to get Debbie Harry, through his Volkswagen, because the ruse of the anal didn't work, Bundy didn't always use a Volkswagen Beetle. He used a white van as well. So it wasn't just one type of vehicle. She was waiting for like a bus or something, and it was raining, and she had some place she needed to get to, and she found herself in a vulnerable situation where, and he was an attractive man. You may not think he's an attractive man today by looking at his pictures from the 70s and 80s, but at that time when Bundy was out killing, he was very charismatic. He was a good-looking man back then. He looked like he was well-to-do. He didn't look like a threat, like the typical, creeper who's, looking, at you or watching you from the dark alleyway or through the bushes. He looked like an upstanding individual, and he had the talk, he had the backstory to it, everything. He had all of it worked out. So that's why he got away with it for so long. And then when he was able to escape jail twice, he was able to go on the run, and people helped him because he didn't look like a criminal. He looked like, an upper, middle class individual, not super rich, but an upper middle class man who just needed maybe a help or a ride from point A to point B. So he was able to get away with it. Didn't Bundy like brunettes with long hair? Yes, he did, Gayla. And a lot of women, when he was actually out on the run, cut their hair or dyed their hair to change their appearance so they didn't look like the MO, the type of person that Bundy was looking for. Very sly. Yes, he was. Well, there isn't any serial killer out there because 65. He wasn't there. That's part of their MO. You don't get away with it. You can blend into society to a large extent as a serial killer, but you have to be sly. You have to be a smooth talker. You can't be that awkward individual. But sick, yeah. Every serial killer is a sick individual. You don't kill people because you're a well balanced, individual. I mean, of all the serial killers that I've studied, in well, for a vast majority of my life, only one, piques my interest like any of them. The rest of them, they're pretty much just sick, depraved individuals. Ed Kemper is the only technically serial killer that I find any real interest in, and that's because of his intelligence, not because of his crimes. And Ed Kemper was known as the co-ed killer. It wasn't just his grandparents that he killed and his mother's friend. It wasn't just them. He was a co-ed killer. He would pick up girls, not just one at a time. In a couple instances, he killed two friends, locked them in the trunk of his car, one in the trunk, one in the seat of his car, and then made the one beg for the other friend's life because he got off on that. He got his kicks that way. But his intelligence, if he could have just went in a different direction, if somebody would have intervened earlier on in his life, and he would have been given another path to follow, Kemper never would have been, sought out the limelight. and he'd probably be working for like NASA or some high tech, Silicon Valley, company, or started his own because the man's brilliant, and it's just he's just always caught my attention. There's been other serial killers who have tested on the scale of high intelligence, damn near Mensa members, genius level, I guess you could call it. They're not serial killers. They're not idiots by any means. A lot of people think that they are, but they're not. I think Warner's killed in self defense. She was shafted. Mike, Elaine Warnos got it. My my God. If you really want to sit down and you've got yourself a box of tissues, sit down and read about her life story. Elaine didn't have a chance from birth, and I mean from birth. Her life was just one person after another using her and abusing her. Did she do it in self defense? Some of it was. Some of it was to strike back at those who did abuse her. But Elaine had no chance in this world. A prime example of why we need people to step in and protect children from a young age on. You may not like the CPSs of the world, and yeah, they're a terrible organization, government body, but they do save some children. And if the CPS would have been around, and would have known about what was going on in her life, they could have ended the abuse as early as when she was a toddler, and she could have gone on and had a productive life. But nobody did. Even law enforcement that did know about it, they just wanted to use her and abuse her. Meep, Kemper is your favorite. Do a trivia night on Elaine Ornos. Um, have I done one on her? I would have to look back. I'll write it down, Cement Shoes, but I might have done one on her. I'll let you know if you're going to be here tomorrow for a trivia night. Forgot the other eye. Bundy's your favorite? Regardless, even if you had a tragic life like Elaine, did, um, it doesn't give you the right to kill people. No one has the right to take another life. And now, with that said, you can debate, the death penalty. Does the government have a right to take a life? Is eye for an eye ever justified? Well, it certainly is if you're the the remaining victim's family member. You would believe in an eye for an eye, but not everybody believes in an eye for an eye. Bundy was your favorite, Mike? There have been some serious creepy people out there over the years that have killed a lot of people. They say that by putting in security cameras, and big brother watching us constantly, the law enforcement believes that they've been able to curtail the serial killers of the 70s and 80s, and there's not as many of them. I don't buy it at all. I just believe they've moved on to and have a different way of getting their victims. I don't believe there's less serial killers today than there was in the 70s and 80s or the 60s. No, not one person has the right to kill anyone. No. Anne Rice wrote the vampire books. Yeah, Anne Rule worked with Bundy at the suicide hotline. But it's all right. I get them confused myself. I mean, hell, I mean, you saw the collection of books. I don't have any out here, do I? Do I have any Anne Rule or Anne Rice out here? My favorite book by Rule. Now, I could be wrong on this. It could be Rice, but I'm pretty sure it's on Anne Rule. She wrote the book "Loves Music, Loves to Dance." Um, a terrific book. It was made into an actual movie. Um, I don't remember who actually made the movie, but "Loves Music, Loves to Dance." Somebody can Google that if I'm wrong about it being Anne Rule. Anne Rice. I think they move from state to state. Well, they definitely do meet. Oops, sorry, just meet. But yeah, and with interstate commerce and people able to move around, and you don't have to be tied down to a location like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. They definitely do. I mean, look at how long Samuel Little was able to escape justice for all of the murders that he committed. I mean, what are we at? 98 somewhere in there victims that they know of, and hit the actual real number may be over 100. But and well, Samuel Little's dead now, so he's not going to be talking to the Texas Ranger anymore. Remembering other women that he or painting pictures of them. But he got away with it for so long because he was transient, not like homeless, but transient. He just moved around from place to place, and he didn't work, an actual 9 to 5 job. He got his money by killing prostitutes and taking their money, killing runaways and taking what they had and then selling it off at pawn shops or keeping it in if like little cachets, trophies, if you will, of his victims. Most prolific that they know about, he's definitely up there. But if there is now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Highway of Tears. Um, that it goes through Canada. If that serial killer is alive, there's a very good chance that it's more than one. It's probably closer to 3 different serial killers who have used the same area to dump women. If there are one person in there, now of the hundreds of women that they have found that have disappeared in a geographic location, and you take a circle and you pinpoint where the body's been found on the Highway of Tears, all right, and you do a circumference around it, that takes up a large portion of Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho, and going up and around. That's if there are 3, there's a very good chance that one of those 3 may be from the United States, and they could have a body count in 100, 115. Because all of the victims couldn't have been killed by one person because of the time from the first victim to the last one. The person would have been in their 80s and still killing. So it's most likely 3 different ones, even though the bodies were dumped in the same kind of manner along the way. But Highway of Tears, look at see if you can find information about that one. And a lot of those women went missing, and a lot of women still go missing who are indigenous from the indigenous population. It's sad. The federal government, the U.S. government, did not take in the U.S. and in Canada, did not take the disappearance of these women more seriously. They just said, they're probably out on a bender and they're gone, or they got drunk, or they're over at the family members or something else. They just didn't take any of it seriously. And we're talking about young women and women in their 20s, 30s, and in their early 40s. So the age, of it all the victims that they later found, and they were just castaways. And it's sad. You have a little girl who disappears, or is murdered in, Colorado in her home, or Utah. That'll get weekly, daily, and yearly updates on the news media as long as she's white. You make it someone of another ethnicity or an indigenous, person, you're lucky if you get a bleep on the news radar at all, even daily. It's sad, but that's the world we live in. Is media. There's people who vanish all the time, and then they find them 15 years later buried in a shallow grave underneath a patio. They didn't turn up because they were African American. Why didn't we get any news about them missing at all? That missing persons report went unchecked and unfollowed up on. For sport, video for the dark web, there might be some of that out there. Well, back at the restrooms of the warehouse where I delivered someone wrote on the bathroom wall, "I'm a serial killer." Boo. Organized crime. That's a whole other the mafia. We're doing tomorrow night. We're doing trivia on the mafia. Mafia tomorrow night at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But organized crime in the mafia, they killed a lot of people, and those people were never listed as murdered. They never found them. They just vanished. The guy who was killing men and dumping them in the lady's bird lake must be gone in Austin. Hmm. Guilty for her hoax. Yeah, I saw that, Amy. Uh, Why she thought that was a good idea was beyond me. I've actually talked to someone. I was researching a story about, and they actually know someone, not that individual that I was talking to, but they know someone who did something similar to that, faked their own kidnapping, and then they try to blame it on another ethnicity, but it was all to get attention. I don't think she got the attention that she was hoping for out of that one. Someone wrote on a bathroom stall, "I'm a serial killer." Wonder if it really was, right, Cart? Wonder if it really was. Mafia crimes. My Italian hubby would be good at that trivia. That's tomorrow night at 4 p.m. Gala. Tomorrow night at 4 p.m. And I made damn sure to not just pick on questions that dealt with the Chicago or the New York mafia. I've got questions about the West Coast to East Coast of the mafia, and all of it is the United States mafia. I'm not talking about international mafia, so none of the questions are about like what is the Genovese family doing, in Brazil. Obviously, I use that as an example because the Genovese crime family, is definitely in Brazil. A man from my hometown faked his own death, lived in the attic for years, all for life insurance. Oh, I think I saw that story, or a video on that. Um, it wasn't didn't his wife know about it, but his kids, when they came over, nobody knew that he was in the attic. That was in the UK, wasn't it? No baby doc questions then. I'm missing that one. I'm not making the connection there. Sorry. Yeah, his wife was in on it, but then she divorced him. I I saw a video or I read about that. There are people who do that all the time. Similar things. Not they don't hide in their own attic, but they fake their death or they just leave everything behind and walk away and reinvent themselves someplace else. People do that a lot. I mean, an awful lot. I'd have to look into the actual numbers of it, but law enforcement knows about it. People have been doing it forever. Just like side, I'm tired, sick and tired of their wife and kids, and they don't listen to them. Instead of killing them all, like Christopher Watts, they just pick up and move across the United States or move one town over and start all over again. Baby Doc was a mob boss in Haiti. So to answer that your question, then cement shoes, no Baby Doc question. Candace Wells, Cornbread Mafia. Uh, Mike, I have avoided Candace and Don Wells like the fucking plague. Sorry for my language. Both of them should be in jail. I can't prove it, but both of them should be in jail. Don Wells needs to shut his effing mouth. he has made more of a travesty of the entire investigation than anything else, and has gotten in the way more than he ever knows. I hope eventually someone is able to prove what happened, with Summer Wells, though. She needs to come home. If she's alive or not, she needs to come home. That way, Candace can, shed more crocodile tears for her. I can't either, cement shoes. I can't. I get little tidbits where people send me, information updates, or I'll see, this news story come across, about another news outlet or somebody, maybe talking about another tip or another search of another area. I just take them and I copy the link and I drop them into a file on my cloud server. I don't bother. And then if I have the time later on, I go back and look at it. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up this morning's coffee brew there. And before I take off, if you'd hit the thumbs up button if you liked it, hit the thumbs down button if you didn't like it. I'd appreciate each and every one of you being here today. Um, and I hope that you'll be able to join us tomorrow night at 4 p.m. for trivia night. Again, it's 18 multiple choice questions displayed on the screen. So you get the question and you get the 4 multiple choice answers. And then there's some funny people out there who add or as another option. You can, if you want yourself. It's only for fun and for educational purposes. So it's a relaxing, fun time. And I hope that you can, if you haven't joined us before, that you will. But Karen Cato, I'm sorry if I missed you earlier, Karen. I hope you're doing well, Karen. But everyone, have a great weekend if I don't see you for trivia night tomorrow. In the meantime, you stay safe out there.